Alright, before we talk about openLDAP, we need to start with LDAP in general. So, what is LDAP authentication? LDAP, it simply stands for Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. I mean, if you want to make directory information available over the internet, this is the way to do it. LDAP is a streamlined version of an earlier directory standard called X500. What makes LDAP so useful is that it works great over TCP/IP networks, unlike X500. So, information can be accessed through LDAP by anyone with an internet connection. It is also an open protocol, which means directories can be stored on any type of machines. So, what is openLDAP? openLDAP is an open source implementation of the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or simply LDAP in general, developed by the openLDAP project. It operates very similar to Active Directory, so using LDAP notation you can authenticate, add, remove users, groups, computers, and so on in a directory service. There are a few ways you can interact with an openLDAP directory. First of all, you can simply use the command line interface and passing commands to create and manage directory entries, or you can use a tool like php-ldap-admin that we will be using in our tutorial, because it offers you a web interface that you can use to manage your directory data.
Why do we use LDAP? The use model is similar like how people use library cards or phone books. When you have a task that requires writing or updating once and reading many times, you might consider using LDAP. LDAP is designed to provide extremely fast read query performance for a large scale of dataset. Typically, you want to store only a small piece of information for each entry. The add, delete, or update performance is relatively slower compared with read query, because the assumption is that you don't do update data that often. LDAP is not just for user validation. Any task that has the following properties might be a good use case of LDAP. You need to locate one piece of data many times and you want it fast. Or you don't care about the logic and relations between different data. You don't update, add, or delete the data very often. The size of each data is small. You don't mind having all these small pieces of data at a centralized place.
So, the steps are as follows. Step 1. Log into root and change the host name. After that, reboot the system. Step 2. Install openLDAP. Step 3. Configure openLDAP. Step 4. Reconfigure the slapd with the update values. Step 5. Test the openLDAP. And finally, install php-ldap-admin package. So, during these steps, you need to exactly do the same as we're going to show you in this tutorial. We're going to log in as a root, and we're going to give the password, and we're going to run the command gedit /etc/hostname. So hostname is a file which located in /etc, and gedit is a text editor for the GNOME desktop. So we will be able to change the host name to server.ldap.com. We're going to save it, and you will not be able to see the change unless you restart the system. So for that, we're going to reboot the system. So after that, we're going to open the terminal again, and we're going to log in as a root, and we will pass the command apt get install slapd ldap utils to download openLDAP software. It's going to ask you, do you want to continue? Because of the 1.6 kilobytes you need to download. So press Y and press enter, and it's during the configuration it's going to ask you for an administrator password. Just enter the root password and confirm it. And because of the 1.6 kilobytes, you need to wait and be patient because it's going to take a while. That's it now. We're ready to go. Let's clear the terminal screen, and let's modify LDAP's configuration file. For that, we're going to run the command gedit /etc/ldap/ldap.conf, and first of all, we need to change the DC, which stands for the domain component, to LDAP, and we're going to remove the number sign from the base, specify the default base DN or domain component to use when performing LDAP operations, and from URI as well, which specify the URI of an LDAP server to which the LDAP library should connect. And we're going to change it to localhost 389. It's basically a directory server. It's an LDAP server developed by Red Hat, and leave other lines by default. So save it. I'm going to save the file, and we're going to clear the screen again. Then we will pass the command dpkg, which stands for debian package -reconfigure slapd. Omit openLDAP server configuration, press no. Choose a DNS domain name. In our case, we're going to use simply ldap.com. Use any organization name. In my case, RE1. Administration password and confirmation password. It's going to ask you for MDP. I recommend you to use MDP because it is 2 times faster loading the data than HDB, 2 times smaller than the HDB database, and it is 71 times faster than the HDB at performing 28,000 modifications. Remove the database. When slapd is purged, press no and press yes to move the old database. After reconfiguring slapd, let's clear the screen, and let's run the command ldapsearch -x to test the server, and as you can see, the response has come. Now we need to install PHP LDAP admin. For that, we're gonna run the command apt get install PHP LDAP admin. It's going to ask you, do you want to continue? Press Y and press enter. Because of the 6.5 kilobytes you need to install it, it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, let's talk briefly about PHP LDAP admin. It is also known as PLA. It is a web-based LDAP client. It provides easy, anywhere accessible, multi-language administration for your LDAP server. Its hierarchical tree viewer and advanced search functionality make it intuitive to browse and administer your LDAP directory. Since it is a web application, this LDAP browser works on many platforms, making your LDAP server easily manageable from any location. So let's clear the screen and let's check out the IP address due to the famous command ifconfig. So that's my IP address. I'm gonna copy it for later on. We're going to use it. And we will reconfigure in our PHP file. For that, we'll use gedit as before. So we have now to define some LDAP servers. First of all, let's look up for $servers set value. Change the name that you have by default. The line just next to it, paste your IP address, and the line just next to it, put your name, your server's name. In my case, LDAP. After that, look up for $servers set value. You're gonna find two lines. Our line is the second one, which contains bind ID, and change the domain component, the DC, to LDAP in my case. So finally, our last line, $config custom appearance, and the second one, hide template warning. Change it from false. You're gonna find this by default false, and change it to true.
Well done, Yassine. And now, after configuring our server, let us try logging into it. First of all, let's just type the command ifconfig, copy our IP address, and paste it into our browser. Just paste it /php ldap admin. Let's log in by typing the password we set previously. Well, the case here is that many of you may suffer from this problem. If you don't, you can skip to minute 14:55. And to fix this error, let's just go to the following file: gedit /usr/share/php ldapadmin /functions.php. And by the way, you should be super user to modify the file below. You will find the lines that you should change in the description. I will leave you a link to download them. And let's just look for the line 54 and change it to the line below. Just scroll until you found it. Here is it. Let us change it by pasting it. After that, let's just go to line 777 and add this line. Copy it. Just scroll until we find the line. We're scrolling. We're still scrolling to looking for our line. And here is it. Let us paste our line. After that, let's just look for the line 1083 and change it to the code that I gave you. Let's scroll again, looking for our line. And here is it. Found it. Let's just change it. Pass the line that I gave you. One last step is copying the lines and adding them into the line 1091. Copying, and let's look for our line. It should be near here, and let's just paste it. Don't forget to save the file before exiting it. Let us now go back to our browser, refresh the page, log out, log in again, type our password, and voila, there is no more errors. And now we're logged into our server. Let us create a new entry. Just click on create generic organization units. Let's just give it a name. I name it array. Let us commit and save it. Let us create a child to array by clicking on it. Create a child entry, and let us create a group. Let's name it. Let's just name it group A. Commit. Now we should create a user in this group. Just click on group A, create a child entry, user account. Let us fill the blanks. Let's give the user a name. Just name it user1. Give it a first name. User array. Just assign it to a group. Its last name, just name it user's last name. Let's give it an ID, and let's create our object. We're almost done. Let us check if our work is over. Let's go back to our Linux. Let's go to our virtual machine, Linux, and check if we're done. LdapServer-X, and here is the user that we just created. Good job, guys.
So, in this video, we've demonstrated how to install openLDAPServer and how to configure it properly on Ubuntu 18.04. It's a very good server to use and a very good server to connect as well. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of the tutorial, so I would like personally to thank my partner Ayoub HAMRAOUI for his useful advices in this project and his flawless work. I would like as well to thank our teacher, Mr. Zenan. Sir, you continue to impress us more and more with your knowledge, creativity, and engaging coursework. Thank you for your guidance, wisdom, and compassion. Your class and enthusiasm for the material made us genuinely excited to come to class. It helped us to find what we truly want to do in our career and where we want to go in the next few years. For that, thank you, sir.